Peeps, I'm back again, somewhere in Illinois. I wanted to put a video out to just explain the buttons and the switches on your dash, on what will be your dash or what's on your dash. I just wanted to put this out there as a reference point because a lot of Schneider drivers drive Freightliners. This is a 2018 Freightliner. You'll see some of the same buttons. You might actually see a few more. And then I'll explain what I've seen in like the 2020 and the 2021, those trucks as well. Some buttons you might see. So with that being said, let me get into it. All right. So what we got here, just your standard. Like I said, this is a 2019. Let me see if I can get some of the glare out. This is a 2018 Freightliner Cascadia. These dials, for the most part, unless you're dealing with, I think, like a 2019 and above, I mean, you'll see some of these same, like, notches. Some of it might be digitalized, but it's good to know what they look like anyways, right? So, starting on the left here, of course, you got your RPMs going around here. That's pretty, standard. Same thing on your car. On your car, you might see your RPM and your speedometer, like in one, it'll have the RPMs under your miles per hour, but here it got it separate, only because it's a focus on, I guess it's a little bit more of a focus on here, being that it is automatic manual transmission, meaning that yes, it is automatic, but it does have the option to switch to manual. You need to utilize and pay close attention to your RPMs in that mode, knowing when it's revving up above a certain point during a regen as well, and if you just in the morning, if it's cold enough, knowing where your RPMs are at, if you wanted to heat up the truck first thing in the morning. So that's that, of course. You got your water temperature right below it. There. It's very important to kind of pay attention. Well, it's very important to pay attention to that. I find that when I'm going up a steep grade, I find that the water temperature will go up as you go up the grade, depending on the weight that you have, of course. Is very important. That's why they do have, in a lot of those situations, emergency pull-offs, not runoffs. So there's a difference between a pull-off and a runoff. A pull-off is something you can just pull into under control. A runoff is when you don't have any control of your vehicle and there's runoffs to the right. There's just runoffs it's usually to the right of the traffic lane where you can direct the truck into that runoff there. But they have pull-offs where you can pull off either before or after a steep grade to check your brakes, and also to cool down your engine. That water temperature right there will go up as the engine is trying to get you up that hill there. And if you're going down that hill, they're just making sure that you're keeping the track of your RPMs, and you're in automatic and you're in manual mode there. So that's going back to why you need the RPMs as well, because when you're going down a steep grade, it's very important to put yourself in a low gear, and you'll find that I'll go over it, but it's right here in this 2018 Freightliner Cascadia. You can change it from automatic to manual here, and then you switch to drive, switch to reverse. It's in neutral now. That's how you park it. You put it in neutral and set your brakes there, or pull out your brakes or engage your brakes there, and that's how it sits. But it'll switch from automatic to manual by pushing that button, and you can change it by pushing it down or pulling it back up. They're just like in a car. It has most modern cars have like paddle shifters where you can go into that manual mode. So just moving on here. In the middle, you got, of course, your gas tank there. It I know this one takes, I believe it's 100 gallons on each side. I believe it might be 75 gallons. I believe I was told it's 100 gallons on each side. I don't get it past this mark here, which is about, I guess it's about it's a little less than, well, maybe it's a third, I guess. I don't get it under that line, which is about a third. But I guess it's 100 gallons on each side. You have a tank on your left and your passenger side there. And, of course, as you fill it up with fuel, it'll fill it up. And I haven't gotten it down to the red, but I'm sure a light would appear up there if you got it down too low. Under that is DEF, which stands for diesel exhaust fluid. I'm not sure when it started, but what it is essentially an additive. It's an additive that you put in usually when you're filling up with fuel. Usually most pilots, loves, bigger fuel stations will have right alongside of the diesel pump. It'll be a pump that says DEF. It'll ask you if you want to add, or if you want diesel exhaust fluid as well. And it's just an additive to make it so when you're exhaust, like, you remember how in the older days, not that old, but in the older days, how all the trucks would have all that black smoke coming out of the exhaust. Well, to make it cleaner for the planet, this was created, diesel exhaust fluid. I was told it's just basically water and some kind of mixture to add into the fuel to make it so you're like you with these modern trucks, you won't see that black smoke coming out anymore as well. So yeah, that's what that is, diesel exhaust fluid. I think this one I think I've put in about 30 gallons before. I'm not sure how much it takes, how big that fuel tank is, but it'll stop itself if you put it on automatic. But I know I've put in over 30 gallons there, so on that. Okay, so moving on from that, of course, you got your speedometer here. Underneath, you got your oil PSI, or your pressure. Just make sure you're checking your oil every morning during your pre-trip. I do it a lot during my post-trip as well. Your pre-trip and post-trip is just you checking your truck in the morning. In order to get your CDL license, you need to pass your pre-trip inspection. And usually you do a pre-trip, post-trip. Post-trip might be a little bit shorter than your pre-trip. But just make sure you're being diligent about doing both of those. Make sure you check your oil pressure in the morning. Right here is two very, very important dials. Not to minimize the importance of any other dial here, but these are very important. This is your primary, which is the first one. As you can see, it says P there. And then this is your secondary. As you can see, it says S there. Primary, secondary air tanks. You have a primary, of course, and you have a secondary. When you turn the truck on, so let me actually turn it on. I'm not going to turn it on, but I'm just going to, let me turn it on here. I'm going to let it do a safe start, meaning that I'm going to let the gauges go ahead and flip back. Then I'm going to start. Okay. Alright, as you can see here, I was driving, and it's warmer outside. About 38. Well, it's warm. Well, I was driving. So that's why you're seeing that the pressure is kind of building up now, but it had dropped. It'll reach about this point right here. Reach that point right there, and that's filled. And then it'll make this sound like you'll hear it exhaust out. And that's how you know it's filled. When it's colder out, the air will leak a little bit faster, just like your tires do in the winter. The air will leak a little bit faster than when it's warm out. I find that if it's like around, anywhere 40 and below, when you wake up in the morning, you will definitely, it'll take about a good 10 minutes for this air pressure to build all the way back up. But it'll start this one up first. It'll start your primary, build it up to about 100 psi, and then you'll see this one begin to build up. It'll fill it, just like you just heard there. It's filled up, but it'll fill up your primary, and then it'll fill up your secondary. As you press on the service brakes, there it'll as I press the service brakes, as you can see here, it'll let air out because it's coming out of those air tanks. But you want to keep an eye on this as you're driving as well. When you have your foot on the accelerator, it'll build up that air pressure. Or if you're just, as I'm sitting here, if it's just sitting, it'll build it up as well. But as long as you don't have your foot on the brakes, or it's not on cruise control and it's not using the brakes, it'll build up air pressure. But if you notice it starts leaking and it's just going down and it's not building itself back up, you want to pull over as soon as possible. When it gets to that black line there, let me see here. Gets that black line there, 60 and below, it'll sound an alert sound. It'll be a beeping sound, a loud beeping sound, and I'll let you know that you need to immediately pull over. Because once it gets at this point, somewhere in there, that's about 20. I think it's about 20 psi. It'll automatically release your brakes. You don't want that to happen while you're driving down the road, because that will be a lot. You don't want that to happen while you're driving down the road. Let me turn this truck off. But yeah, so you definitely want to keep an eye on both of these to pay attention if any of these are leaking. If you see the dial going down, just pull over, and then you should be doing an air brake test along with your pre-trip inspection in the morning. But just listen for leaks. Roll down your windows, do an air brake test, listen for any leaks. Do not pull over on the side of the road if you can help it. Find a rest area or a truck stop and do an air brake test. Listen for any leaks or anything, and then stop your truck and reach out for some help using your resources. But those two are that. Of course, there are some things in that dial. Let me see if there's anything. Most of these are just as you can see all the lights there, but most of these are just complimentary things. It'll tell you, it'll tell you trip mile per gallon, miles fuel used on that leg. It'll actually show you a digital representation of how much air you have in here. So it's 123 psi right now. That little puff of smoke, we're going to come to it because that's your regen. Once it gets up to, once it get up to around, I believe it's somewhere around 70 to 100%, it'll initialize the regen, or it'll pop up with that same signal up here, meaning that you have to do a regen. And I'll explain what that is as well. It has to do with your DEF down there. And then it shows your mile, like how many miles are on your truck as well. We got 549,206. It'll show you what gear you're in, neutral. If you stop your truck and release your brakes, let's say you stop your truck, release your brakes, but you're still in drive, it'll realize after about 5 or so seconds, it'll realize that you've released your brakes and you're stopped, and it'll switch itself back into neutral. Now, of course, you don't want to depend on that, but it'll switch itself back into neutral. If you stop your truck, put it in neutral, and then forget to release your brakes, or not release your brakes, but engage your brakes, then once you open your door, it'll be your city horn, which is this horn here on your steering wheel. It'll be like beep 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 beep, very loud, very loud. Everybody will realize that what you just did, because that's just common knowledge with these modern trucks, I guess. If you don't engage your brakes before you open your door, it'll beep 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 beep, really loud. That can be pretty embarrassing. So that's what that is. It has your oil. No, that's not your oil. Oh yeah, that is your oil temperature there. No, that's not your oil. Yeah, that is. No, that's your water temperature. Yeah, that's your water temperature there. 146, as you can see, is right there. 146 degrees. If it gets around 200 and you're not moving, or you're not going up a hill, something's not right. Something's not right. You want to make sure that you got, check your radiator fluid. And that's not water. Well, check your radiator coolant levels. Your reservoir, make sure it's at its proper levels as well. But if it gets above 200 and you're just sitting there, that's an issue. That on the right side is your oil PSI, your oil pressure. Yeah, you want to make sure that it's not. Usually when I'm driving, it'll fluctuate. It'll go from, let's say, around about 60%. It'll stay in between, I would say, this checker mark and 60%. They're depending on, like, if I'm pressing the gas or pressing the accelerator or anything there, but it does fluctuate, I found. But I haven't seen it go past 60%. There, so keep an eye on that. Like I said, I check my oil on my pre-trip and my post-trip, just looking for any metal flakes or anything. Looking at the color of it, smelling if it's burnt as well. Looking at the levels, of course, as well. So just make sure you're checking that as well. Up here, for the longest time, I didn't know what that. I thought I had my engine light on. That green light right there. That green engine light means that your engine brakes are engaged. So you can do that manually by essentially. You can do that manually by essentially going 1, 2. Okay, there's 3 levels. 1, 2, 3. 3 levels of engine brakes. 1 is barely noticeable. You won't barely hear it. There. 2, you're going to start to hear it pretty loud. And that's that sound. The engine brakes are when you hear trucks go brrr, brrr, like some people call them engine retarders. You'll see them on signs saying either engine retarders prohibited. That's what that means, engine brakes. So as you can see, if I turn it on, that means engine brakes. Now, when you turn your cruise control on, your cruise control will automatically take hold of your engine brakes. That's how it slows itself down, slows the truck down. And, depending on the vehicle in front of you, or depending on you're going up and down the hill, it'll use your engine brakes to its advantage. So if you put on your cruise control, you will always see that green, you will always see that on there while your cruise control is engaged. That lane, that stands for lane spacing. That means that your lane assist is on as well. It comes on automatically, but you can turn it on as well. I'm going to show you the buttons on that side. But let me finish going through here what we got. So we got your battery voltage, IPM not active. I don't know what that means. Help me out if anybody knows what that means. I don't know what that means. IPM not active. I'll look that up. Park menu here. Let's see here. So you got your fuel engine, your fuel info, your trip info, your engine info, all of this stuff, diagnostics, service, and all this stuff. I haven't had to go into this stuff at all. That's when you were seeing like how many miles I've done on this leg. I keep track of that elsewhere. And fuel info, I keep track of that elsewhere. So I don't need to go into this at all, but you would get there. Let me see here. See if I can trying to get back here. Okay. All right, there we go. So when you get, all right, so how I'm going through this is I'm pressing these two buttons here, plus and minus, right? But it says press that button to enter the park menu. As you can see, it's not there because it's here. That's the menu back, and that's kind of like a nice transition because as you can see, we're on 9 of 9 on that menu, so we're all done there. So let's go over here. All right, so what do we got here? So I'll show you this area here. I'm gonna go through all these buttons. On this side here, you got this right here. It'll brighten up or dim the lights on here. You can't really see it here because it's not nighttime or anything, but it'll brighten up or dim those lights on your dashboard there. You got, of course, your yield button, your footwell light. Say, for instance, if you drop something or you need to check something. I don't even know if you can see it, but there is an orange light down there. It's an orange light down there. It looks pretty cool at night. It looks pretty cool. But there is an orange light down there. That's what that does. I'm going to go ahead and turn that off. All right, now we come over here to these important. These buttons, they're a little bit, well, let me just go over here. So the first button is called Regen. I just know it as Regen. I talked about it earlier. Having to deal with the DEF. As you can see, it has the same symbol there. All right. So what that Regen button is when that additive that we add there to keep the idling and the exhaust good for the or as best as we can make it for the planet. That additive that we add to the fuel has a buildup. It can build. It has a buildup, or it can build up in and around the fuel container, the fuel tank. The only way to burn that off is through, I guess, the heat that is made by driving. But say, for instance, if you were idling, if it was too cold and you were idling and using your bunk heater, or not using your bunk heater, but if you were just idling, it was too cold and you wanted to use your heater, or if you was idling, it was too hot, or you wanted to use your air, or if you were just idling when we were in training, you'll notice it as well. The truck would be sitting for a while, in between people getting in and out, and we had to do a regen a lot. What that button does, what happened is, when the system notices that there's too much buildup, it'll a light up here. Light, let's see here. That light right there will pop up. And what it's saying is that there's too much buildup. The truck hasn't got hot enough. It hasn't been run enough in order to break down that buildup. What you need to do is press that regen button there. And what'll happen is it will raise the RPM somewhere in between. It'll raise somewhere between that 10 and that 15. It'll rev it up for, I mean, it could go up to an hour, maybe even longer. It'll, and what that does is, I guess, that heats up the engine, it breaks down that additive, that buildup, and you'll hear it. Like it, I mean, you can't hear. Let me see. Like that truck right there is idling. If it was regenning, it'll be like, whoo, whoo. Like people across the parking lot are like, they'll hear it because it just sounds different. It's much louder. It's just much louder. But that's what that does. That button, first you'll see a light appear. It'll appear up here, telling you that there's buildup. You press this regen button here. It'll take a second or two. It'll take a little bit, but you'll start to notice that the RPM will slowly start to climb, and it'll just whoo whoo, and it'll be like it'll be simulating essentially you driving, and breaking down those that buildup there. So that's what that is. Sometimes it'll do it itself. If because I noticed it was like 10 degrees one night, and I think I mentioned this in the video. It was like 10 degrees or something, and I was idling. I was taking a nap. I was taking a nap, and I was idling, and I woke up because it just felt different, because it had I guess essentially the system noticed it build up too much, and what happened is it started to regen itself. And when the RPM starts to shake like that, like it kind of shakes the truck a little bit differently. I mean, not violently, but it's just the engine shaking the truck, but you could feel it. And so I woke up and understood that it was regenerating itself. So it'll regen itself if the truck is just idling and you don't press the button manually. It will enter regen itself. So I just wanted to go over that button. The next button, override engine shutdown. I press this button quite a bit. Schneider has, if you don't have an APU on the back, meaning that if you don't have it stands for auxiliary power unit. If you don't have it to where you could it's just an auxiliary battery pack, essentially, for things to run like your fridge. You can run different appliances. I mean, you can cool down your truck or heat up your truck without idling this truck. Now, essentially, we do have a bunk heater in the back, but that doesn't work on the same system as the truck battery. Well, it doesn't work. It works without idling the truck, but with an auxiliary power unit, it's just a separate, just a separate power unit that will work to charge a thing like your fridge. I mean, continuously charged, so you don't have to worry about it. Like your fridge, microwave, TV, whatnot. With myself, I got an inverter, but it works off the same battery pack as the truck. So, say for instance, if I had a fridge, and I went on break, like I went for home time and left my truck and that fridge on, the fridge is going to run the battery dead. Essentially, it's going to run the battery dead because I don't have an auxiliary power unit that newer trucks actually turns the truck on essentially and will power up that auxiliary power unit by itself. It's really crazy, but to stay on board, what that override shutdown does, it'll like if I turn the truck on, and we'll see it happening. The truck looks at a couple of things. It'll see how cold or how hot it is. if it'll say, all right, is it below 20 degrees or is it above 70 degrees? If it's below 20 degrees or above 70 degrees, the truck is going to stay on by itself. It's going to idle, just like it is now. If it's in between those two, if it's above 20 degrees and below 70 degrees, the truck is going to give you 4 minutes. And then it's going to, that same sign, this Regen sign, is going to pop up here. It's going to pop up there. It's going to start blinking. And that means in about 10 seconds, it's about to shut off. So to get it to remain on manually, what you have to do is press that override engine shutdown, or press the brakes, or it's somewhat like your display, but like your screen. What do you call it? Your screensaver. Your phone only gonna stay on for, if you have it set for it stay on for like 30 seconds and then it'll shut itself off. This is like the truck screensaver, so it's gonna shut itself off unless you press the button or tap it or do something to the truck to say that you're still there. Like, even if I'm stuck in traffic, if I haven't moved, even if I'm in drive, if I haven't moved in like 4 minutes and traffic is stuck, I still have to press that engine shutdown or do something like pressing the brakes or nudging up a little bit, and it'll know that I'm there, and then that light will stop blinking and it'll stay on for another 4 minutes. It's only 4 minute increments. So that's what that button does. ATC. That stands for, I want to get this right. I know it's traction control. Help me out with the A one. But what that button does. So, it's automatic traction control. Okay, yeah, automatic traction control. All right, say for instance you're driving down the road. And it's slippery. And let's say one of your tires on your drive tires. One of your tires on your drive tires is spinning faster than, like, the truck notices, or the system notices that one of your drive tires is spinning faster than the other on the same axle. What it'll do, and it's pretty smart. What this button does is it automatically tries to fix that. What it'll do is it'll do one or two things, or maybe even both. It'll lightly tap on your brakes, lightly tap on the brakes on that tire, that individual tire, to kind of make it so that tire is spinning at the same time, and so they get at the same RPM. Or what it'll do is put you in a lower gear so that tire can catch up, or the other one can slow itself down to match the RPM of the tire on the same axle. So it's automatic traction control. It'll do it itself. And as you can see here, look at it. So it's blinking. I'm gonna press that override, and it's gonna go back. It's gonna give me another 4 minutes. All right. So that's what that automatic traction control does. It automatically tries to fix it to where your tires, your drive tires, are staying on the same RPM. The one's not going faster than the other. Now you got your Hsa Override. What that stands for is Hill Start Aid Override. In these newer trucks, I don't know what year it starts, but I know it has to be at least 18. But that stands for Hill Start Aid Override. What it is, and I experienced this when I was when I was parking yesterday. When I parked yesterday, and I didn't have a trailer connected. Well, let's say you have a trailer connected and you're about to dock. You're about to dock that trailer into a dock, but it's what do you call those docks? I call it an inset dock, meaning that it goes like down a little hill, you have to take your trailer, back it down a hill. Well, this right here on the newer trucks prevents rollbacks. What it'll do is if you come to a point, if you come to a stop sign on a hill, say for instance you come to a stop sign on the hill, and the hill is like you're going up a hill, but you got a stop sign, you got cars in the back. To prevent rollbacks, when you stop and pull forward, it'll lock the brakes. It'll like lock your brakes while you have it. Like you'll be pressing down on your service brakes, but it'll also lock your brakes, and it'll help you to prevent you from rolling back. Now that could be a problem if it doesn't sense that it won't know that you're trying to back into a dock going down a hill, and so you will have to press that button right there, Hill Start Aid Override, and it'll essentially tell the system, hey, I need to go down this hill. I'm backing down the hill, or I'm backing down a dock, and I don't need that assistance. But thank you. So that's what that does. It essentially is a system that generally helps you, like when you're at a stop sign or anything, and you're going up a hill to prevent rollback. It'll automatically kick itself on to help you, don't roll back and hit a car or hit a pole or hit something. So that generally helps you. All right, so going over here. Okay, so I already showed you what the menu back button does. I essentially did show you what the lane assist does as well. That lane assist, when you turn the truck on, it automatically turns itself on. Just like most modern cars, if you're driving down and you get out of lane, it'll make a noise. It'll be like it'll sound like, it'll be like brrr, brrr, every time you get out of the lane. And I don't know where it is on the truck. It's on the truck somewhere. There's sensors on the side of the truck, and it'll just make a noise like brrr, 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 every time you get out of the lane. So what you can do is just turn it off there manually. You have mirror heat when it's been raining. When it's raining and the windows, your convex and your West Coast mirrors get all fogged up, I turn that on and it'll actually defrost. The truck just shut off. It'll actually defrost itself there and clear that up for me. So that's very helpful. The dome light button turns on that bigger light right there. It turns that on. It turns that dome light on. There. So those four buttons: the menu back, the lane assist button, the mirror heat, and the dome. Now you got these two, buttons as well. You got your tractor brakes, and you got your you got your trailer brakes, and then you got your tractor brakes. Sorry, trailer brakes, tractor brakes. Pushing them in is releasing the brakes. Pushing that's what confused me at first, because when they say release the brakes, you would think, you kind of pull them out to release them, but no, you push them in to release them, you pull them out to engage. Push them in to release, pull them out to engage. This is for your trailer. Red is for your trailer. Yellow is for your tractor. Tractor is what I'm in right now. Trailer is, of course, the trailer. So pushing them in is release. Pushing them in is releasing them, meaning that I can then go forward without any brake restriction. Any brake restriction besides my service brakes. These are your service brakes here. When I'm pressing this, that's my service brakes. These here, got your tractor parking brake, and you got your trailer parking brake there. So keep that in mind. Tractor, trailer. All right. Here is the system. Now this thing this does a few things. I can make a whole nother video on this thing right here. But essentially what it does is monitor the vehicles in front of you. And it'll tell you how fast that vehicle is going, how far they are in front of you. And it helps the cruise control keep you from hitting anything. So it pretty much is a sensor that tells how far the object or the vehicle is in front of you, keeps you from hitting anything. The utility light is when you're backing up. There's lights on the back. There's lights on the back that you can turn on, like really bright lights. 2 on the side, and then there's 2 in the middle of your tractor. You can turn on, and it'll help you back up if it's like really dark, or if you need to see the gliding hands or anything. You turn that on, and it'll give you light back there. You got this right here, which is your inter-axle differential lock. So just like with the automatic traction control here, just the same, right? So say for instance, if I was going on I was traveling on a gravel, right? Or traveling on a gravel path or road, and I hit a pothole or something. I hit a pothole. One of my tires went in the pothole and the other didn't, and it's just spinning out. It's spinning out there. What I would do is I would, press on my brakes. Press my brakes. I would stop. Press my brakes. All right. Press my brakes. Then I would engage this, or I would lock it. What it's doing is just like with the automatic traction control. This right here is going to lock it. Lock the axle. So that tire, so both the outside and the inside tire spins at the same time. The automatic traction control will kind of mitigate it. It'll do a couple of things to get them to try to spin at the same RPM. This right here will lock it so it doesn't have any choice. But as you can see, it says do not engage while spinning out. You don't want to break anything. Just stop, press on the brakes, lock it, and then they'll spin at the same time. Because one of them should have traction enough to get the truck to move. And then both of them will regain traction. When they do regain traction, once again, stop. Release, meaning unlock. And then you'll begin to move. It just helps you gain traction. Everything is to help you gain traction on your drive tires. So that's what that does. Here, underneath the tablet here, we have use only for trailer disconnect. That's the trailer hold there. And the trailer hold it does a couple of things, but it's very rare that you really need it. What I've used it, I would say what you would use it for in training and inspections is to check your lights. On these older trucks, on the newer trucks, it'll be a button it'll be a light test button. Like you have a light test button and you can press a button and it'll flash all the lights for you. It'll flash all the lights on the trailer and everything. It'll flash the brake lights and everything, so you don't need it. But on these older trucks, what you do is you flip that on and it'll actually put your trailer brake lights on. It'll put your trailer brake lights on. And so that's the way you can test your lights and everything during an inspection. It also allows you to check for leaks in the air. It'll engage your trailer. It'll kind of help you assist if what it'll do is it'll engage the brakes. So if you're disconnecting from the trailer doesn't skid forward or anything accidentally, is what I've been told. But if you have your trailer brakes engaged, meaning pulled out, then you really don't need this. It'll actually turn itself off anyways. So the thing that you'll be using this for is in training and an inspection, if that unfortunately happens, or to check your lights and everything while you're outside of the truck. Of course, here we got your fifth wheel slide tandem lock and unlock. You need this to adjust your fifth wheel tandems. Now, remember, you have tandems on your trailer, tandems on your fifth wheel. Your tandems on your fifth wheel is to adjust the pressure that you have in your drive tires and your steer tires. Not your drive tires, your steer tires. So that's what you need that for. To lock it and unlock it. Doesn't have that, like that handle that you pull the fifth wheel release arm. It's not for the tandems. That's just to release the kingpin lock. You need this. It's like the handle underneath the trailer that, you know, lets the trailer slides on its tandems. This is the handle, but it's inside the truck. So that's what that does. And I think that is all of it. I'm sorry, I didn't mean for this to be a longer video, but I did want to go over that with you all, because I thought that would be helpful. If you got any questions or if you want to see anything else, drop a comment down below. And until next time, I am going to create another video on about this and critical events, because I think that's important as well for you to know, especially as a Schneider driver or a big company driver. So until next time, guys, peace out.